Get away from me!
Hi everyone, it's me, Drew, and welcome to Social Distance Cinema Discussion. How's everyone doing? I mean, seriously, how is everyone doing? It seems like every week we're just bombarded with more horrible news, so it's a good time to have like a mental health checkup on everyone, especially after watching a movie like Dead Poets Society. I think sometimes movies serve as a psychological escape from whatever you happen to be feeling at that point in time in real life, which is why I'm kind of amazed that so many people voted for this movie, as I'm sure all of us are feeling quite a bit overwhelmed right now. But be all that as it may, I actually think this is a perfect time to be discussing this movie, just because in these severely depressive times, it's important to see the warning signs of someone who is severely depressed or potentially suicidal. People who work in media, like myself, have a strong responsibility to depict suicide responsibly on screen. There's a phenomenon in psychology known as the suicide contagion or copycat suicide. Basically, irresponsible representations of suicide in media, whether it be TV shows, newspapers, or movies, can result in more people committing suicide. Experts think that there may be a number of reasons why this happens, so they've created a list of things to avoid when depicting suicide in media. So I went back and watched Dead Poets Society with these guidelines in mind and gave it an A through F ranking on each of the criteria to determine if it was a responsible depiction of suicide in film. I also went through a list of warning signs and risk factors to see if Neil exhibited any of those things. First, we'll go through a few warning signs, which are indicators that someone may be in acute danger or they may be in the early ideation stages. Number one is talking about feeling trapped or being in unbearable pain. Neil literally expresses himself feeling trapped to Professor Keating later on in the movie, but Professor Keating wasn't really trained to notice that sort of thing.
Talk to him before tomorrow night. Is there an easier way? No. I'm trapped. No, you're not.
Second is increased drug and alcohol use. At first, we just wrote this off as rebellious teenage behavior against an oppressive authority figure, but now you know how important it is to know the signs because they're so easy to misinterpret. Tying in with this is sleeping too much or not enough. The only free time these boys have to host these Dead Poet Society meetings is late at night. I'm not sure if this was an intentional choice by the filmmaker, but it seems to fit pretty perfectly. The fourth key warning sign in this movie is withdrawing or feeling isolated. Neil never did this by his own volition, but his father assured that he would be isolated by threatening to send him to military school for 10 plus years, away from his friends and Professor Keating.
Tomorrow I'm withdrawing you from Welton and enrolling you in Brighton Military School. You're going to Harvard, and you're going to be a doctor. That's 10 more years. Father, that's a lifetime! Stop it! Don't be so dramatic. You make it sound like a prison term.
And lastly, number 5 is displaying extreme mood swings. Although this only happened once to my knowledge, Neil does flip on his roommate Todd, played by Ethan Hawke, for bringing up his father.
I'm gonna act. Ah! Yes! Yes! I'm gonna be an actor. Ever since I can remember, I wanted to try this. I even tried to go to summer stock auditions last year, but of course my father wouldn't let me. Why don't you just come in and ask him, and maybe he'll say yes? That's a laugh. I don't ask him, at least I won't be disobeying him. But if you said no, Jesus, Todd, whose side are you on?
Next, we'll go through a few risk factors. By this, we mean characteristics that make it more likely that someone will attempt suicide. First, hopelessness. To be fair, this movie is one large exercise in hopelessness. But what I think set Neil over the edge is this scene.
You're going to Harvard, and you're going to be a doctor. That's 10 more years. Father, that's a lifetime! Oh, stop it!
When his father threatened military school, Neil saw the next 10 years of his life flying right before his eyes. Tying in with this is our second risk factor, which is a lack of social support. Throughout the movie, the only people that Neil can vent to are his friends and Professor Keating. And when his father threatens to take that away, Neil will have no one. Third is easy access to lethal means. I thought it was kind of cheap that the filmmakers never established the gun prior to that horrible scene, but it was pretty clear that it was kind of easy for him to get his hands on. And fourth and last on our list of risk factors in this movie is impulsivity or aggressive behavior.
I say we go tonight.
Tonight. Wait a minute.
Everybody in?
Yeah. Where's this cave? It's beyond the stream. I know where it is.
boring to me.
Neil is clearly the most impulsive of the entire group. It was his idea to find Keating in an old yearbook, to restart the Dead Poets Society, and to take up acting on a whim. When going through the list of protective factors against suicidal behavior, the overlap is very, very narrow. One was community support, which, as was brought up earlier, was taken away from him by his father. And the second is religious beliefs that discourage the idea of suicide. It's clear that the school was religious and some type of Christianity offshoot, but I would wager that all Christian denominations discourage suicide. And now finally, after all that, we can go through the applicable guidelines set forth by the World Health Organization around depicting suicide in media. And this is Dead Poets Society's report card. For avoiding language that sensationalizes suicide or presents it as a solution to problems, we gave Dead Poets Society an A.
Neil's dead?
This use of language was not present in the movie whatsoever, at least to my knowledge. For avoiding prominent and undue repetition of stories about suicide, we gave it an A. People are more likely to attempt suicide if someone around them has already tried it. The filmmakers shy away from making any of the other Dead Poets Society members have any suicidal ideation. For avoiding explicit description of a method used in a completed suicide, we gave Dead Poets Society an F. It's clear what he uses. That's all I have to say about that. For avoiding detailed information about the site of a completed suicide, we gave Dead Poets Society another F. We literally see where he does it. For exercising caution in using video footage, we gave it a C-. Filmmakers usually interpret this to mean footage of the act taking place. You'd be hard-pressed to find a film that does this because they usually just cut away or use other means to imply what happened. I give it a C- though, because I'm not entirely sure that I agree with that interpretation. For showing due consideration for the people bereaved by suicide, I gave Dead Poets Society an A. The entire ending of the movie seems riddled with this. And lastly, for providing information on where to seek help, I gave it a D. Neil does go to Robin Williams, but he's hardly helpful and isn't trained to spot that sort of thing. And there you go. What's the overall average of that? I don't know, like a C or something? You do that. I will say that I did thoroughly enjoy this movie. I think it's extremely powerful, but powerful doesn't always equal responsible. Personally, I'd give Dead Poets Society a 14 out of 15 lobsters. There's a bit of a weird air around this movie just because of what happened to Robin Williams a few years ago, so I'd like to dedicate this video to him because that one really hurt and still kind of does. He was one of my favorite actors, and I absolutely love the man. What did you guys think of this movie? You think it was responsible, irresponsible, and what's your goddamn lobster rating? Remember, if you're in crisis or thinking about suicide, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-8255. Keep an eye out on social media and Discord for this week's movie, and as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully I'll see you next week.